Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. Get yourself a cup of tea or a glass of wine and get comfortable because there's a lot to talk about. We all know what day it is. It's Gaslighting Tuesday. And on today's Flopcast, it was the trans community's turn to be exploited by Rachel Raglan. Today's suckers on the podcast were Candace Bushnell, who was the author for Sex and the City, and MJ Rodriguez, who was fierce in a series called Pose. And to round out the podcast at the very end was Amanda Gorman, in which she closed out with one of her female empowerment poems. The most important part of this entire podcast was the intro. However, stick to the end because there's also another topic that I want to talk about, which is slut shaming. Okay, here we go. I am going to read the first paragraph, and it goes like this. There's a piece of art in my sitting room. It's not fancy. It's kind of this rectangular shape, almost plaque-like. And it just says a few words very simply across it. Humankind. Be both. My dear friend Genevieve gave it to me a couple years ago, and when I walk past it, it always makes me smile. Of course, because I love her and our friendship, and it reminds me of her. We've been super close since we were about 17, but also because it's true. Humankind. Be both. And it got me thinking of other types of wordplay that resonate. And I specifically was thinking about something that I was told many years ago. You're not just a human being. You're human. Just being. Ugh, shut up, Megan. Just shut up. Now, the woman who told me this was trying to remind me to just be easier on myself, sort of in the same vein of saying, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Well, this is just another version of that same ilk of advice. You're human, just being. And as I think about what we've covered throughout this podcast so far, and the many ways my guests and I have reflected on the girls that we once were and the women that we've become, I wanted to visit a large piece of my origin story, my old school, and explore if these labels and boxes are part of this self-identification for the young women there, or if they've given themselves the space to be a human being. Oh, my bad. Sorry, guys. I should have warned you to get a bucket in case you felt nauseous. So this paragraph or intro was setting the stage for what comes next, which was hearing some rustling as if she was walking outside, and you find out that she is at her former school, Immaculate Heart. Here's what I find extremely manipulative. So Megan is doing this tour of her school, and you can hear the rustling of the footsteps going through the hallways, and she then goes to visit the girls' volleyball practice, and after that, she's going through the classrooms. And here's what I believe happened. So they're going through all of this, and then Megan cuts in to say, I visited the school to sit down in conversation with 3 amazing young women just on the cusp of adulthood. They had just graduated about a month or so prior. So she gives the impression that she is at the school sitting down with these students. But here's the thing. If they graduated, why would they be at the school? That's just my observation from what I'm hearing. This story doesn't pan out because also, if she was at the school and popped in at volleyball practice, right, and she's sitting down with these ex-students now, it would technically be in July, which school is out in July. We're in summer school, so there would be no volleyball practice. This story does not jive. And given the responses of the 3 students when she sat down and spoke to them wherever they were, I wouldn't think that Immaculate Heart, at least I hope not, that Immaculate Heart would sponsor allowing her to come in and sit and interview these girls. The nature of the discussions goes against all of Catholicism. I want you to hear for yourself. So Megan proceeds to ask the question, what are the labels that you get tagged with? And here are the responses.
The B word.
Yeah.
It just really rubs me the wrong way when men use that word, whether like as a direct insult towards a woman or just like in passing. But it's like a derogatory word used against women. And it's really frustrating to see how common it is
when it's used so casually.
Yes. And I think that's the problem, because people just like shoot it at each other, or they just say it in passing, and it's crazy how many times I hear that word in a single day.
Wow.
Another word we could talk about would be when a woman speaks up or uses her voice, they're labeled as bossy. And I hate that word so much, because if a man says something or adds or pitches in an idea, it's like they're this great person, they're the leader, they know how to lead. Exactly.
Taking initiative.
Exactly. But there's many women out there that don't want to be labeled as bossy, and so they don't speak up and they just sit down and take it all in, which I think should change. And that's why I bring it up.
Yeah, what a detriment.
Shut up, Megan. Just shut up. Not sure where they're sitting, whether Megan's even doing this interview. Megan then adds in saying, so here's what I wanted to ask them. I wanted to fully understand, do the stigmas and labels that I grew up with still hold the same weight? And keep in mind, at the same time that I was sitting down with them earlier this summer, the show wasn't out yet. They didn't have a sense of what it was, so I was trying to set the table for them to understand. Here's what I'm looking into, and I want to see if you see it through the same lens or if things have really changed. Megan's timelines don't make sense, and I think that she is lying somewhere in here. In my personal opinion, I think that this was part of her research. The show wasn't done at the time that she was speaking to these students or former students. So I don't believe anything that she's saying here at this moment, but she is backing their stories, because the tropes that she had gone over the last 11 or 10 of these things have been the exact same words that these students had echoed. So it's my opinion that these students gave her the idea for this show and how to structure it. And that I find interesting, because she's making it sound like, even though she carried out this podcast, what was being echoed by these students by playing this at the very end of her series to make it look like, yeah, everybody's in consensus that these are the words that are used in the public. Do you see the manipulation by this woman? Then Megan proceeds to then bring back up the class assignment that she had about planning her wedding with these girls and wanted to get their take on a class such as that, if they had experienced that. And this is what they said.
What on
earth? That sounds insane.
No,
like they're building a path for you.
Yeah. I think if we would have had those assignments now, we would have definitely spoken up about it.
Yeah.
No doubt in my head, someone would have said something, if not everyone.
A lot of my very close friends are set on being single, or they just don't want kids. And they just, like, I feel like they don't have that pressure on them to conform to that norm or that past norm of women getting married and having children. But they don't see a problem with that, which I think is great. And I think that's what's being taught to us in our classes, which is great as well, that we don't need somebody to support us, a man or a partner.
And that you don't feel the judgment, but you also don't have the self-judgment.
Yes.
So Megan exploits this next student in order to jump on the bandwagon of the LGBTQIA trans movement, which now has set up the tone for the theme of this episode, which was human being human bullshit, which I have to note that I didn't know that being a human being was an archetype that was holding women back.
As a woman, and for myself as a queer woman, it's like it kind of feels like the world's against you at times. And while there's definitely opportunities to make community and like to find people like me and to find people who are different from me, but who, we can see eye to eye on some things. But sometimes it feels like there's an army right outside, like waiting to take away all my rights and like just, it's just a dark time. And I think you have to kind of see the silver lining in that there's people all over the place fighting and supporting you. But, it's kind of scary where we're headed right now.
I really struggled today with this video because I was trying to put the right words together in order not to offend any of my viewers. Then I realized that self-censoring myself is exactly what this woke ideology is doing. I'm not going to apologize for what I say in this video, nor should I have to. The reason why things are so messed up and we have people like this who are infecting our society is because we have lost our way. And when I say we lost our way, we have lost our ability to have faith. And whatever your religion is, doesn't matter. All religions, they have one commonality, and that's God. In none of these podcasts, Megan ever thought to think the reason why there are some deeply rooted stereotypes for men and women and the roles they play is pretty much based off of what our core foundation was founded on, and that was God and what is written and interpreted from the Bible. In God we trust. These podcasts are a great example at showing that the media is a godless media. And this is pervasive across all media right now in the United States. And it said, look, all these women bitching and moaning and complaining about, oh, they're not getting paid this. They're racist. Whether you are religious or not, you can't have a society without structure. And religion is what provides that purpose and framework. Take away religion, and the outcome is what we're seeing right now. Moral decay, divisiveness, confusion, isolation, hatred, unnecessary suffering, and lawlessness. Do you realize that people are condemned these days for talking about God? This video most likely will get demonetized because God is considered controversial. And the reason why Meghan Markle doesn't sit right with me is because she is blatantly teaching people that you can lie and hurt people to get what you want. And there's no consequence. While people like myself, who had a really great job, but got fired for telling the truth. We live now in a society that doing the right thing can cost you everything. And this is why cancel culture is so bad, because it does inject fear and it suppresses. And I'm just so sick and tired of seeing people like this who have been given every opportunity when there's many other people in this world that are deserving, but that's her path. And it's her choice if she wants to mess it up, because you reap what you sow. So going back to this podcast, now you understand why the rest of it fell on deaf ears for me, because she has demonstrated that nothing that she has said really she embodies or is about. You start off the podcast with talking about human and kind and both. What planet do you think we're living on? Some of the things that you have done to your own family, as well as your husband's family, as well as people around you, so evil and malicious that I don't understand why we are not waking up here in the United States. Oh, wait a second. I do understand why. When our media is biased and you are in bed with other people who are equally as deceitful and manipulative, Oprah, then this is what you get. Meghan Markle 100% represents Antichrist. Many of you have told me that you have grandchildren who are on TikTok, or nieces and nephews, or your children are on TikTok, and they don't believe anything that you're saying. They believe what's being pushed out in that area, and that's because she is preying on that demographic. I'm going to guarantee that she showed up at that high school unannounced, thinking that, oh, because she's a duchess, she doesn't have to make an appointment, and rocking herself onto the campus in hopes to talk to students. Underlying this new image that Meghan is trying to portray as this goody-goody two-shoes is the word slut and the meaning behind it. And the two guests that she had on, Candace Bushnell and MJ Rodriguez, both were talking about women's sexuality. So Meghan goes into talking with MJ saying that, yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, one of the things that I think as all women we face is you're getting older, you're exploring and starting to understand your sensuality, your feminine divine, your sexuality. Oftentimes, it can be very much used against you. And I give the example of, for a woman especially versus a man, if he is a player or out having fun or whatever he's doing, it's often celebrated, even heralded. But for a woman, I don't care if she is perhaps the most beautiful, successful woman in finance in her mid-50s, I promise you someone will go, Yeah, but she's still such a slut in college. Well, Megan, only bullies think like that. And you would know something about that because you're the one that did the same thing to your own sister. Let me refresh everybody's memory. Last year, when Megan was exposed in court for being a liar, Jason Knopf had provided emails and correspondence between him and the Duchess, in which she had wrote about her family, including Samantha. Not only did she lie, but she made it a point to defame her by making a statement that was completely derogatory, and essentially it was slut shaming. This bitch! The innocent Megan on her podcast then goes into saying, yes, and I don't understand what it is about the stigma surrounding women and their sexuality, the exploration of their sexuality, that is so much more vilified than for a man. For Megan or somebody on Megan's team, because I know you're listening, do yourself a favor and just shut up, okay? Shut up. And for Immaculate Heart to allow this predator to go on campus and lurk around and prey on these students is unacceptable. It reminds me of the stunt that she pulled at Uvalde, where she just showed up with her camera crew and she wanted to get pictures of inside the school. Somehow I feel like this was the same situation. I did try several times today to call Immaculate Heart, but apparently they don't like to answer the phone. So many of you ask me what you can do to help. There are messages or inquiries sent out to Immaculate Heart to understand what their curriculum is and ask them if they condone those that openly lie but call it their truth. Is this what they're teaching at a Catholic school? I'd like to understand, is this how religion is now being positioned and taught? Because for her to be lurking around the high school to get interviews, you have to think, does the high school know about this? Did they allow this? And are they okay with this? Maybe ask them if it's okay to lie and bully other girls as long as it gets you where you want to go. Is that what this school considers achievement and respectable, as well as godly? I'm not on Twitter, but I'm going to ask any of my viewers to do me a favor and tweet out at them, asking them, one, to answer their phone, and two, how they allowed Megan to be on campus and have the opportunity to influence some of these young, impressionable women when she is known to not embody any of the Catholic principles that had been taught at the school. Are they okay with this predator's influence in undoing everything that is being taught by showing them that it's okay to lie, that it's okay to cheat, it's okay to hurt other people, and it's okay to use your body with men in order to get what you want? You might want to remind them that she openly lied about the LA riots to take advantage of the BLM movement and appear relevant to her commencement speech that she gave in 2020 for Immaculate Heart. Is this Immaculate Heart's role model for women? Anyway, these are just my thoughts and opinions. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. On that note, thank you so much for sticking this out. I will be back tomorrow with some more content. Until then, be safe. Bye.
I was such a fraud.